live in New England, we have a saying, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute. Now the political climate seems to change as quickly, and not just here in Washington, but around the world, as we've seen in just the last several days when all of this happened. At the NATO summit, President Trump scolded our partner nations, intimating that the USA would leave the 70-year-old alliance. He criticized German President Angela Merkel and British Prime Minister Theresa May, then declared the meeting a success. Next stop, Britain, where he praised the Prime Minister in a cheery joint news conference after touting that May's rival Boris Johnson would make a great Prime Minister. Then, after he showed up late for tea with Queen Elizabeth, his encounter with her was criticized as disrespectful. On to Helsinki, and Trump's first one-on-one with President Vladimir Putin from Russia, just them and their interpreters discussing undisclosed plans which the Russian military has now been tasked to implement. All this played out overseas. Meanwhile, here at home, Robert Mueller indicted 12 Russians in a detailed account of 2016 election hacking. An accused Russian spy, Maria Butina, was arrested and denied bail. Lots to digest, you bet. So let's bring in political commentators Jonathan Harris and Steve Malzberg. Welcome.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Gentlemen, in the words of the late, great John McLaughlin, issue one. And we'll go Jonathan, then Steve, in that alphabetical order. NATO, bottom line it, damage done?
It just seems to be that Trump is on a tirade to undermine our allies. I mean, to refer to the EU as our biggest foe and then to work to undermine NATO. To me, I mean, looking at this from a political angle, this works really well in the hands of the Democrats ahead of the midterms. I mean, it's almost as if Trump is working for the Democrats because it does nothing but rally the base. He is continuing to go after our allies and to strengthen people that are enemies of our nation, and that's exactly what we did with NATO. NATO is now furious. I mean, the lying. Just one of the lies that stood out to me was when he said that the U.S. contributes 90% to NATO. The actual number, I believe, is 22%. Just lying, just undermining our allies, ridiculous, but very typical Trump, and I appreciate it as a Democrat.
But, Steve, those fuzzy facts leave his fans undaunted, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, undermining NATO, how was NATO undermined? Demanding that NATO pays their fair share, that nations cough up the money. We've been paying the bulk of NATO forever, 22%. And Americans are sick of it, and Donald Trump ran on being sick of it, and calling out Germany for strengthening Russia through purchasing their natural gas and through a pipeline, while at the same time the whole purpose of NATO is to protect Germany and the other countries from Russia. That's the most bizarre scenario you could imagine. And Trump said, what the heck's going on here? That speaks to the American public. It speaks to the world. It's common sense, something that other politicians shy away from and they're afraid of. And that's the appeal of Trump. Well, and if you think he's helping Democrats, I don't know what universe you're in.
Well, Steve, about the America versus the world, he sure plays at home, but don't you find his unstatesmanlike comportment unsettling if you're elsewhere in the world weighing America?
I couldn't care less.
Of course not.
Well, I mean, I don't care what. I don't. You think who? Do I care what Angela Merkel thinks of him? Do I care what the French president thinks of him? Do I care what the French people think of him?
Do you care what the American people think of him? Because they don't like him either.
It's America first, and that's the president. He's the president of the United States, and he's doing what's in our best interests, while keeping his commitments to the rest of the world at the same time.
Jonathan, this America first stuff strikes me as a retro.
It's a joke. I mean, you listed all these people whose opinions you don't care about, and I'm just kind of curious, do you care about the American people's opinion? Because the majority of them disapprove also. And
they elected him, my friend.
No,
they elected him, and they're going to re-elect him.
No, they didn't. The Electoral College elected him, which is very, very different.
They didn't elect him?
Very, very different.
I guess that the Golden State Warriors didn't win because the other team had more free throws, right?
No. It is very different to say. No. Hold on. It is really different to say that he won the election. He did, but to say that the American people elected him, are you kidding? 3 million more people voted
him,
for
my
the
friend?
other person.
When
3
you,
million more
Really?
people
Okay.
voted for the other person. That's not the American people
Doesn't
electing
matter.
him.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess
doesn't
you don't
mean
care
a
about the
thing.
will. I guess you don't care about the will of the American people. Then you were right. Okay.
So what would you suggest, Jonathan? Overturning the results of the election?
I'm not talking about overturning the results of the election. You literally just said the American people elected him. You are
They
incorrect.
did. Who else
you are
elected him?
incorrect.
Issue 2, same order. Jonathan, then Steve. The crowd of protesters beneath that baby Trump blimp in London looked bigger than the Trump inauguration crowd Sean Spicer called the biggest ever. And the world was watching. What did they see in London, Jonathan?
They saw our president somehow floating above those people. I guess that wasn't actually him, but it almost was. No, I thought that was great. I love the resistance that's not only, I have never seen that kind of a protest take place for a visiting head of state. That was just amazing. It was beautiful, and it shows that not only do the American people have a very healthy disdain for this person because he's the scum of the earth, but apparently so does everyone around the around the world. So I thought it was great.
Don't sugarcoat it. Tell us how you really feel.
All right,
Steve, you're
it.
thinking America first. Who cares about the Brits, right?
That's what he would say. Yeah.
Wow, you are really reprehensible to call the president of the United States the scum. That's not funny. The scum of the earth.
Would you like me to run through a list?
Really?
Would you
like?
You
know what? I'm glad. I hope the people are watching, and you think you're doing your cause any good. That's what drives the people to Trump. So keep it up. Put balloons in the air. Call him the scum of the earth. Call him Hitler. Call him a Nazi. Please keep it up. You're making my point.
I'm making your point. Would you like me to run through a list of all the things that he said, but you're offended that I called him the scum of the earth?
We don't have nearly enough time.
Yeah, we don't have nearly enough time. Are you kidding me? I like that you're more offended by me calling him reprehensible than the reprehensible things he's done. Okay.
Face to face in Finland. And gentlemen, we've deliberately avoided the cable news cliche of booking a so-called body language expert. So Jonathan, then Steve, you read the room. And what was said behind closed doors?
You know, I'm not sure. I know that they're working on subpoenaing the translator for what was said between the two of them. I'm not sure. I just know that what was said in front of the American people was alarming, that he was talking about turning over our intelligence officials to Putin, that he was entertaining the offer of having people appointed by Putin come work with Mueller on the investigation, just beyond disturbing. So I'm not exactly sure what was said behind closed doors, but what was said in front of them was disturbing.
Well, subpoenaing the interpreters now not going to happen. But listen to this quote from the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. They say they're ready for practical implementation of the agreements reached between President Vladimir Putin and President Trump in the sphere of international security achieved at the Helsinki summit. Steve, if the Russians are allowed to know what was said there, why shouldn't we be?
Well, they're not being specific. I mean, who's allowed to know? I mean, based on that statement, we're assuming Putin told his military people or whomever what was done there. That doesn't mean it's true. That doesn't mean it happened. He's not telling the world or the people. Look, if you want to be offended by a President Barack Obama who said, quote, "Tell Vladimir I'll have more leeway after the election."
Oh, the
and
right
after
loves
the election,
that quote.
and I'm talking. And after the election, what happens? That he allows them to go into Crimea. He allows them to go into Syria. He draws a phony red line. He does nothing. He says a month before the election, nobody could tamper with our elections. Give me a break, please.
Are you sincerely suggesting, Steve, and I'm just for my own edification, are you sincerely suggesting that the climate upon when he made that statement, when President Obama made that statement, which was completely factually accurate, by the way, he did have more leeway afterwards, that was the same climate that it was in 2016, 2017, and 2018? Are you kidding? I just want to know if you were absolutely serious when you said that.
The Russians have allegedly been interfering with our elections as we have been interfering in other people's elections for decades.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if it was the same.
Yes.
It was the same climate in 2012 as it is right now.
Okay, a climate created in fiction by the media.
So you're just not going to answer?
That's what's created the climate.
So you're just not going to answer? That's fine. Okay.
I did answer.
The
climate is different because of the media.
It was the exact same climate with election tampering in 2012 when he made a factual statement that he will have more flexibility after the election as it is right now.
John McCain and then he let Russia do whatever they wanted on Crimea, on Syria, and with election tampering.
Sounds a lot like
So
Trump,
he kept his promise to Vladimir.
I just knew this was going to go well. So I got about a minute each. Give me 30 seconds each. Jonathan and then Steve. Finally, names, addresses, account numbers, and other impressive detail in the indictments of 12 Russians accused of 2016 election meddling, and real-life Bond girl Maria Butina, a former Russian central bank employee and gun rights advocate, is jailed here, accused of forging back-channel deals on behalf of her ex-boss, a reputed money launderer and lifelong National Rifle Association member. To be fair, no convictions yet. Jonathan, then Steve. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
I guess it's important to point out that her attorney says that she's innocent of all of that. I just think it's incredible that she worked so closely and was able to become so buddy-buddy with, guess what party? The Republican Party, because they embrace people like that. The NRA is silent. Usually it takes a mass shooting to get them to be this quiet. They're silent. Yeah. And she was able to get close enough to Trump to question him about how he would interact with Russia. But the right is silent. The NRA is silent. I am fascinated.
Yeah, she is a character right out of The Americans on FX. And Steve, ever since Citizens United, it's not hard to imagine that a lot of money's flowing through the NRA, is it?
If you're implying that the NRA did something illegal, bring it on. If they did, then get them. But stop with all of it, not you, but everybody, with the implications. So she was a member of the NRA. That's all they're saying. There's no tie to Trump. If she's a Russian spy, then lock her up. If she's not, let her go. What does this have to do with the Republicans and Donald Trump? You're implying they knew what she was doing. There's no evidence to that fact.
She doesn't have photographs standing with Democratic lawmakers. She has photographs standing with Republican lawmakers.
So what?
Tick-tock.
So you're saying they knew who she was?
So what? No, they just stood with her. They didn't know who she was at all.
I know you two are going out to dinner together. I just begged the server to remove all cutlery from the table. Jonathan Harris and Steve Malzberg, thank you for joining The Big Picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.